Hello students, this is J.C. Benoy, your SST teacher, and today we are going to do a continuation video on the chapter that we had started in the previous video. I hope you are all doing well. As usual, keep a pen and paper handy so that you can make notes of the important points that I am discussing here. Today I am not putting up a quiz, but I will be sharing a worksheet later, so please do make notes so that you are able to understand the topic. In case if you are not clear about certain topics, please make it a point to mail it to me so that I can have a doubt clearing session for you all. Alright? So I hope once again that you all are doing well and we will be able to get out of this lockdown situation soon. Now, yesterday we had started with the chapter 4 of our textbook, chapter 5 of our textbook from the history section, Vedic Age. So this video is a continuation video of chapter 5, Vedic Age, alright. And what did we study about the Vedic Age? We saw that the end of the Indus Valley civilization was followed by the Vedic age in India. Now, this Vedic age was brought into India by the Aryans who came from Central Europe, somewhere around Poland, and they came to India through the Hindu Kush mountains. And the map that I have shared right now is from the early Vedic period. Now, all this we had looked at yesterday. We also saw in the previous video that there are 4 Vedas which were written during the Vedic period. And which were these 4 Vedas? The Rig Veda, Samveda, Yajur Veda and Atharva Veda. Now we saw that these scripts tell us a lot about the society during those times, what were their beliefs and what were the technological advancement, the gods they prayed to. This is the Agni god, Indra god, the warrior god, alright. So many other gods that we had studied about. Today we are going to look at a little further into detail about the Vedas. We are also going to study about how the Vedas help us to understand the Vedic society, the society during those periods. How did the people live? All this we come to know through the Vedas, especially the Rig Veda. So the early Vedic period we come to know through the writings of Rig Veda, and the later Vedic period we come to know through different other writings. Alright, so let's have a look at the writings of the Vedas. Now it is believed that the Vedas were inspired by the gods, and the gods themselves were dictating these Vedic scriptures to the writers. Initially these scriptures were orally transferred to the next generation. So initially there was no script. What does initially mean? In the beginning. Alright, so when the Vedic period started, in the early Vedic period, there was no script. So how do we know what was written? So during the early Vedic period, the people used to have their ashrams, and they used to tell their stories again and again orally. You all understand orally, like how I'm talking, okay? So they used to narrate stories, they used to narrate incidents, they used to narrate different scriptures, and that is how the Vedas were written. Later on, when a script was evolved, the people started writing down these scripts. Now, we have already seen what the different Vedas tell us about. Now, here in this picture, I've put up the last point of the Brahmanas. What are the Brahmanas? These are the prose texts that are attached to the Vedas. Alright, so with the Vedas, we have extra portions which are attached to the Vedas. What do these scripts tell us? These scripts, these additional information that is given with the Vedas are called as the Brahmanas, and they are additional information that tell us exactly how to read and understand the script that is shared. And the Brahmanas and all these Vedic teachings were initially done orally, and slowly as they evolved, as the Vedic period, the people evolved, they were able to create a script, and then they started writing down the Vedas. So these were normal conditions during those periods. Now to tell you more about the Brahmanas, you have to note this down so that you remember it. So I already told you Brahmanas are prose texts, means what? They are paragraphs, okay, and they tell you about the Vedas in detail, so that there is no misunderstanding, so that you can understand what is written in the Veda or in the poem format more explicitly, more in detail. All right. Now apart from this, there is another part of the Vedas called the Aranyakas, okay, which I have already put up on the screen. Now what do Aranyakas mean? Aranya actually means forest. So the books that were written in the forest are called as the Aranyakas, okay. So some books were written in the forests, and so they are called as the Aranyakas, okay. So we had the Vedas, then with the Vedas we have the additional information in the form of paragraphs which tell you about the detail of the Vedas, alright. After that we have the Aranyakas which were written in the forest, okay. Apart from the Aranyakas, we also have the Upanishads. Now Upanishads you must have all heard about. What are Upanishads? Upanishads are explanations of these books which were written in the forest, alright. What are Upanishads? Upanishads are the explanation of the books that were written in the forest, which are also called as the Aranyakas, alright. So what all have we looked at so far? Let's just have a look, okay. We saw Vedas. We saw that the Vedas have an additional information written underneath, alright, to the Vedas. Those are called as the Brahmanas. The Brahmanas give us more information about the Vedas, and they are written in paragraphs so that we understand the Vedas better, alright. Then we saw that there are, apart from the Vedas, we also have another set of writings which are called as the Aranyakas. Aranya means forest, and Aranyakas are the books that were written in the forest. Now to explain about these books, the books that are explained, that explain us about the Aranyakas are called as Upanishads, alright. So what all terms do you have to remember now? The 4 types of Vedas, the Aranyakas, the Brahmanas, the Upanishads, alright. So all these are different points which you need to remember about the Vedas, and from all these we get to know about the society during the Vedic period, alright. Now I want you all to draw this table, alright, so that a chart, so that you understand how the Vedas tell us of different parts of the Vedic period, alright. So basically the Vedas tell us of 2 periods, the early Vedic age and the later Vedic age. And now what we are going to study is also going to be a little bit of early Vedic age and life in the later Vedic age, okay. Now the period of early Vedic age was between 1500 BCE to 1000 BCE, alright. So when was the early Vedic age? Early Vedic age was between approximately 1500 BCE and 1000 BCE. You'll remember BCE means before Common Era, alright. Now the later Vedic age. When was the later Vedic age? Later Vedic age was between 1000 BCE to 500 BCE. Now you all need to draw this so that you all can remember it. Draw it and make it as an assignment, alright, and keep it in your files, in your books, alright. Now this is the extent, geographical extent. So now what is the topic we are looking at? Geographical extent of the Vedic period, early Vedic period, alright. So in the beginning, when the Aryans came from the Hindu Kush mountains, as you can see in the map, it is right from Yamuna. If you look on this side of your map, on the right hand side of your map, you will see the river Yamuna and Ganga, and from there onwards the map flows on to Pakistan, alright. So you have all the rivers that are flowing through this entire area. So you have Yamuna, Saraswati, Sindhu, and all the other rivers, alright. And all the Vedic period settlements, early Vedic period settlements were between the tributaries of the Indus Valley civilization, okay. The Gomti you can see over there, okay. Then I already told you Yamuna, Ganga, the Saraswati, Sindhu. But now if you look in the map of India, will you find the river Saraswati? No. Why? Because it seems to have dried up, it seems to have disappeared. As it flow into Rajasthan, it sort of disappeared. So we are not able to trace Saraswati, but there is a mention of, then how do we know about the river Saraswati? We know about the river Saraswati because it is mentioned in the early Rigvedic writings. Okay, so in the Rig Veda, this river Saraswati is mentioned, and that is how we know that the Aryans lived between the Yamuna, Ganga, and so on towards the other rivers. All right, so these were the areas of settlement of the Aryan civilization. So you can write this down. The early Aryan culture developed between Yamuna and Satluj, the south of Ambala, which is a place in Punjab, upper course of river Saraswati. Like I told you, river Saraswati has dried up, and so you can no longer find it. So this is what the map of this early Vedic age shows. All right. So this was the geographical extent. Now let's look at the political and family life. All right, how was the life of the people over here? One thing that I missed out to tell you is I told you about the Sapta Sindhu yesterday. All right, in the other previous video. So Sapta Sindhu is inclusive of these rivers, inclusive of Indus River and its tributaries. So that is why this area was called that is why it is said that the early Vedic age settled in the Sapta Sindhu area. All right, so that brings us to the political life of the Vedic society. Okay, how was the life of the people? What systems did they follow? What culture did they follow? So that's what we're going to look at. Now, a family, the smallest unit of a society is the family. So this is the same system in the Vedic life also. So this, I have put up an image of the family. The family was called as the Kul, all right, and the man or the father was the head of the family. All right, so the father of the children is considered as the head of the Kul, and family was the smallest unit of the society. All right, so that is the last bottom tier that I have put up. Okay, so lowest unit of society in our society is the family. It is called as the Kul, and means family. The head of the family was called as the Kulapa. All right, then a number of families coming together would form a clan, which is known as Vis, okay, or Vish, and the head of this clan was called the Vishpati. All right, the head of the clan or the head of the group of families together was called as the Vishpati. So you have the family, you have the Kul. The head of the Kul is the Kulapa. He is called as the Kulapa. Then you have a number of families coming together to form the Vish or the clan, and the head is called as the Vishpati. And then all these families together who were staying together in an area was ultimately formed the Gram or the village, and the head of the Gram was called as the Gramini. All right, the head of the village was called as the Gramini. So this is the society, the basic layers or political aspects of the society in Vedic period. All right, now a group of these families coming together, all right, a group of villages coming together would form a tribe. What was it called? It was called a tribe. And who was the head of the tribe? The tribe were called as the Rajan. Okay, the head of the tribes was called as the Rajan, and they were considered as the kings. All right, so but they did not rule over areas. It was on how much cattle they had. What are cattle? Cattle are the animals that they had. Okay, basically cows. So the number of cows they had, more the number of cows they had, the more richer or stronger the the Rajan was. All right. Now, so the Rajan's wealth was in the cattle. All right. Apart from this, they had the Purohit. Who was the Purohit? Purohit was the priest who performed the sacrifices. So Purohit is the priest who offers the sacrifices. All right. So all the religious aspects were taken care of by the Purohit. Then they had other layers in the political society called the Sabha, Samiti, Vidata, and Gana. All right. So they were kin-based assemblies. What does the word assembly mean? I have put it up on the screen. I'm saying the meaning, please make a note of it. Assemblies is where a group of people come together to decide certain decisions, to take some decisions. When they come together, it's called a assembly. Now, it could be for any purpose. It could be for economic, it could be for social, it could be for any purpose. So, whenever such a assembly took place, so what does the word assembly mean? Assembly means when a group of people come together to take some decisions or for any purpose. Alright. So, what were the different assemblies? You had the Sabha, Samiti, Vidata and Gana, which I have already put up on screen. Please make a note of it. Also make a note, this is during the Rig Vedic period. So Rig Vedic period means the early Vedic period. Alright. So it was more or less equal. Alright. Work was assigned to different people. People did different work, as is evident from the Purohit. Then we also know that decisions were taken in a group. They did it through assemblies, that is a group of people coming together for a specific purpose, for any purpose. Alright. And they had the Sabha, Samiti, Vidata and Gana. And you have to note that the men and women were all involved in this. So there was no discrimination between men and women during this period. So it is assumed. Now what happened during the later Vedic period? So in the early Vedic period, during the Rig Vedic period, you had kings ruling over cattle and not territory. And Purohit formed religious ceremonies. And then there were sabhas, assemblies. Okay, there were assemblies for taking decisions, and men and women both participated. But what happened in the later Vedic age? The kings became more powerful because they had more number of cattle. Alright, so they started ruling over territory. They started encroaching, they started taking over other people's territory, other tribes' territory. So the wars started happening before territory instead of cattle. And they kept on adding to their kingdoms, so their kingdoms became larger. The kings also offered sacrifices. Now, who offered these sacrifices for them? The Purohits or the priests. And two main sacrifices which we need to remember are the Rajasya and the Ashwamedh. Now, Rajasya is a sacrifice which they believed that gave the king a lot of power. So that is why the kings were close to the Brahmins or the Purohits who used to offer these sacrifices. Alright, so they used to approach these Brahmins or the priests and they asked them to offer sacrifices for the king. So one of the sacrifices was the Rajasya, which is supposed to give, which was considered that it gave the king a lot of powers. Okay, strong. It made the king very strong. So the word conferred, which is used on the screen, means to give. Okay, it brings upon a lot of power. Now Ashwamedh, that sacrifice was the horse sacrifice, which was also a practice during the Vedic period. Now when you look back into history of Central Europe, okay, and other parts of Europe, you will find that there was horse sacrifice practiced even in those periods. So it was a Vedic age practice. So two sacrifices which I've told you were offered by the kings, the Rajasya and the Ashwamedh. Rajasya was for the king to attain or get more powers, complete control, and Ashwamedh was a horse sacrifice. Now let's look at what was the family system like. Alright, in the later Rig Vedic period and the early Vedic period. So like I said, Kul means family. It was also called as the Griha. And it was a patriarchal society. So patriarchal means where the father or the men were the heads. Alright, so it was a patriarchal society where the men were the heads. So the father was the head of the family. Now this is also the period during the Rig Vedic period that the marriage was established, the institution of marriage. So that is when marriages started happening. Now in the early Vedic period, there were women who were important. Some of the important scholars who were women, I've put up their names: Gargi, Maitreyi, Ghosha and Lopamudra. Alright, so these were the important scholars of the early Vedic period whom you find mentioned in Rig Veda. Alright, now in the later Vedic period, what happened? The status of the women started declining and people, they were not allowed to enter into public affairs anymore. Alright, so these were the different things that happened in the later Vedic period. Now in the later Vedic period also started, during the Vedic period, we also have the caste system coming up. Okay, now in the caste system depended on the occupation of the people, and this occupation was not compulsory. It was not rigid in the Rig Vedic period, not in the early Vedic period. Let's have a look at the caste system first. There were different castes. Basically, Brahmins, who are the priests, Kshatriyas, who are the warriors, Vaishyas, who are the traders, and Shudras, who did the menial work. So, who's at the top? The Brahmins. They were the priests who offered the prayers to the god. Kshatriyas are the warriors who fought, alright, who fought and protected the kingdom. Vaishyas were the traders, and they did the business. And Shudras were the menial workers who had to do all the other work that was there related to cleaning and other maintenance work kind of jobs. That was all, and it was also the Shudras who had to work for the other three classes. Alright, so these were the different caste systems. Now what you have to remember is that in the Rig Vedic period it was not rigid. Please make a diagram of this. It was not rigid, it was not fixed. People could change their castes according to the work they did. They would be considered of that caste. So if you were a Shudra, born a Shudra into a Shudra family, but you started a business or you started trading something, then you would become a Vaishya. So it was not fixed that just because you were born a Shudra you will be a Vaishya, or a Vaishya who could become a Brahmin. So depending on what you did, it would be considered as your caste. But in the later Vedic period, it became rigid. So in the later Vedic period, we already saw that the kings were becoming powerful. They had started having larger kingdoms, and they were more into the control of the area. So then in the same way, the Brahmins became dominant. They became more powerful because they were closer to the kings. They were the ones who were offering the sacrifices. The Vaishyas, their post was reduced, their importance was reduced, so they still did trading, but the Shudras were completely sidelined. They had to compulsorily work for the upper three classes, and also it became hereditary. Like, what does hereditary mean? Hereditary means if you are born into it, you will be continuing with the system. So now if you are born a Shudra, you had to continue doing whatever your father, your grandfather, whatever job they did, that is the same occupation that you could take. Okay, you could not change like it was in the early Rig Vedic period. Alright. Now apart from this, we also have the 4 stages of life which is taught in the Rig Veda. Alright. The 4 stages of life taught in the Rig Veda are called the ashramas. Okay, the 4 ashrams are the Brahmacharya, which is the student life, where the children or the people went and studied with the Guru. Alright, so you had the Brahmacharya, then you had the Grihastha. So Grihastha was where you went to get married. Alright, so you finished studying and then it is time for you to get married and start a family. So once the Grihastha stage was over, then you had the next ashram called the Vanaprastha. Now Vanaprastha is the hermit life, where you sacrifice your family life and you come to a more spiritual kind of a living. And finally it was followed by the sannyas ashram, which is a life of renunciation, which means complete sacrifice of anything that was worldly. Alright, so these were the 4 ashrams of the Vedic period. We're going to stop here. Let me just do a quick recap of what we have studied today. Few things that we learned about today are that the Vedas have further additional scripts attached to their documents, to their Vedas. So the Rig Veda or the other 3 Vedas have additional material attached to them called the Brahmanas, and the Brahmanas give you an explanation of what is mentioned in the Vedas. So it helps you to better understand the Vedas. Then you have the Aranyakas, which were books written in the forests, and to better understand the forests, the books that were written in the forest, that is the Aranyakas, the Upanishads were written. Alright, so the Upanishads give us an explanation of the Aranyakas, the Brahmanas give us the explanation of the Vedas. Alright, Now, apart from this, we also saw what the economic and political life of the people were like. We saw the start of the caste system. We learned that in the early Vedic period, the caste system was not rigid, but in the later Vedic period, the caste system became rigid. The wealth of the people was in their cattle, alright. So that is how it was in early Vedic age. But in the later Vedic age, it started becoming more rigid. The kings started fighting over for territory and not for cattle, and they became more powerful. So these were the different things about the Vedic period. Alright, apart from this, their economy was also strong. Okay, like I said, there were different occupations that they had. So there was agriculture, there was farming, there were different coins that were used. This is actually an image of the coins currency that was used in the Vedic period called the Nishkas. So that way the economic life of the Vedic period was very strong. In the beginning they were pastoralists. Now what does pastoralists mean? Pastoralists mean people who used to go from place to place with their livestock, animals, and they used to take them for grazing. Okay, like we learnt, Aryans came to India itself because they were looking for pastures for their animals. Then they slowly started settling down, and they started surviving more on agriculture. So these were the different things that created a more economic life in the Vedic age, especially during the later Vedic age. Apart from this, we also know now, because of the temples or because of the architecture that was there in that area, or the remains that we have found, we have come to know that there were carpenters, that there were chariot makers, then there were weavers, leather workers, potters, and metal work was also followed. So there were a lot of economic activity going on even in the Vedic period. Apart from this, there has also been iron discovered. Iron was also discovered during the Vedic age. Now before this, we studied that in the Indus Valley civilization, bronze was used. So what was the metal used in the Vedic civilization, Vedic period? Iron was used. These are some of the tools that were found in one of the excavation sites from the Vedic period. These are made of iron, and they are spearheads and axes. So these are more sharper. So in fact, the tools like this were used to clear the forests around Ganga, and that is where many of the people settled. So these are the different things that contributed to the growth of the Vedic period, and that is how they spread all across. During the later Vedic period, they spread all across the northern part of India. Now we are going to stop here. Please go through the video again. Make a note of the different points that I have discussed. Have a nice day. Thank you.